Well, good evening and thanks for joining us tonight here on News 20 on GTN. A great show for you. We have Coach Hammer. We always know it's going to be a great show when Coach is on Hammer Body's Custom Fitness. Glad you could join us again.
Yeah, and we're live today.
Yeah, it's been a long summer. A lot of fluctuation in weight, and we thought getting back into school, the fall weather coming upon, have Coach on to find out what we need to do to keep ourselves in shape before the crazy holidays here. How you been?
I've been good. Been real busy. We've been busy with Hammer Bodies and busy with the athletes and with the folks that are just trying to keep their hearts in shape and lose a little weight. And yeah, I think this is a good time for us to talk about this change in season and the fact that it's going to start getting cool fairly soon, and it changes our metabolism. It changes the way we go out. Some people are not cold weather people at all. You know, that hibernation season is coming up, so we can talk a little about that, and you always have great questions for me.
Well, what about the person who says, well, you know, I'm going to wait for it to be nice outside, then I'll start my walking regimen again, and I'll start doing this. If you keep putting things off, you're never going to get started. You can go to the gym, you can walk in your basement on the treadmill, you can lift cans of corn in the family room if you need to.
That's absolutely true. There's always something that you can do to be active. I think it's important that people understand, and I believe I've said this a few times on the show, you don't have to lock yourself into traditional forms of working out. Working out can be anything that you do to increase your heart rate, to increase your breathing capacity, to make your skin more flexible, to work blood in your circulatory system, and to really be a healthier person. So doing anything that is physically active, moving and breathing, is a workout. And so you can look for different ways to do things. You just brought up the fact that you can take cans of vegetables, and you can do things with cans of vegetables. You can move furniture. I know I'm going to have you rearrange Angela's furniture every single day. So
or chase my kids around the house.
Now that can be very physical, knowing your kids. That's true. So there are different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, and I think we can explore different things, you know, today, throughout the day and throughout the interview. But it's important to know that if you wait, if you look for excuses and wait, you're right. You will never get anything done with regard to keeping your heart healthy, to keeping the extra weight off you, and to essentially retard that aging process.
All right, I have a question for you. How does caffeine affect your body, and is it a detriment to your health? And I'll ask you first, and then I'll tell you why I asked that question.
Okay, that's a great question, considering there's loads of study going on right now, and has been the last 2 years, on caffeine and caffeine ingestion. And what they're finding, well, I'll answer your question right now. What caffeine does typically, and we all know what caffeine is, it's an upper, and it increases, okay? It increases your capacity to think, it increases how much energy level you have, it boosts you, it's a little boost. That's the stuff that's in a lot of these energy drinks. That's the active ingredient, caffeine. Okay? So if you look at any of these little bottles or these cans, I won't mention names, but if you really look under the ingredients, you'll find the word caffeine somewhere in the ingredient list. Okay? Is that bad for you? Well, that's a kind of an interesting question. What they're finding out now is a couple of cups of coffee before 15, 20 minutes before a runner lines up on the start line for a race actually helps the runner. They find that a couple of cups of coffee or some caffeine ingested for a student in studying actually isn't too bad for that student, because it opens things up and they are a little bit more acute in their focus. So from that standpoint, caffeine can be a good thing. It can be a beneficial thing. I think the problem occurs when we take in too much caffeine too often, and we use it as a stimulant on an ongoing basis, and we get very used to caffeine, and then we start coming down and withdrawing, so to speak, from caffeine, and then the body goes into more of a depressed state, and we find we want caffeine or we can't stay up. And that's never a good thing. We want to be able to have a sustained blood sugar so that our blood sugar level is even, it's sustained, and we have energy throughout the day. Does that answer your question?
It does. When you try to wean yourself off the caffeine, I mean, of course you have the headaches and
Oh, yeah.
the craziness that's associated with that. But do you become almost dependent on that caffeine to where your body, you feel like you can't live without it? You're jittery, you're crazy?
Well, it's varying degrees of dependence on caffeine or artificial stimulants like caffeine. Some people have that feeling, oh my God, I cannot live without this. I can't function without this. I need caffeine to function at a level that I must have to do my job, or to take the kids to school, run from school and get the stuff in the cleaners, go to the cleaners, from the cleaners and go pick up this. And they feel like I've got to have that jolt of caffeine just to keep me up.
Well,
Okay?
how long does something like that, let's say you drink a cup of coffee, how long does that caffeine blast last? Is it for 2 or 3 hours? Is it for 5 minutes?
Depending upon the intensity and the amount of caffeine, can be anywhere from 18 to 40 minutes.
That's it?
Well, it depends on a lot of dynamics. How much caffeine have you taken in? What is the strength of that caffeine? What have you had with the caffeine? What else is in the body? How does your body use caffeine? Different people, different body chemistries, different usage of caffeine. So the effect is different for all different people.
So are you saying that it's not bad for, it's not an ingredient that is bad for your body?
Well, I'm not going to go...
Or your heart, or your...
Right. I'm not going to go on record and say Coach Hammer says technically it's not bad for your body. I'm going to tell you what I'm reading in studies and what some of the studies are saying. And of course, we all know studies, they can be slanted. But what I'm reading a lot is if caffeine is done for the right reasons and within a moderate capacity, it is not bad for the human system.
So 1 cup of coffee, 2 cups of coffee, 1 soda, or is it the stuff that accompanies everything in a soda that makes it bad? It's not really the caffeine, it's the caffeine plus everything else.
You're getting there. You're really getting there. Depending upon what that caffeine is surrounded by in the ingredient list, can make a difference in how much weight you gain and what is really bad for you, because it could be the other ingredients. For instance, when you mention soda, we all know what soda is. So if you have caffeine with sugar and you have large amounts of these sugar, let's take the classic product. I guess I can say this on the air.
Don't. We all know what it is.
All right. It's the green bottle with the M and the D for, okay. That is known for high amounts of caffeine and loaded with sugar. And so you're pouring tons of sugar in your system. That sugar breaks down and eventually is converted to fat if your body doesn't utilize it over a period of time. And so people who do that tend to drink more than 1 bottle per day. They tend to get dependent upon that because they love the jolt, they love the rush, and they love the feel that both the sugar, which is an instant high, and the caffeine, an instant stimulant, delivers. Now, if you're having a cup of steaming hot Java, which is primarily caffeine, and you're going to run a race, or you're going to need something to maybe focus on your studies, that's a whole different story. You're simply taking in the stimulant of the caffeine, but you're not taking in all of the sugar. You're not getting in a lot of chemicals. You're not getting in green dye number 6, okay? So the chemicals, the preservatives, the sugars, and all those other agents, those are not contributing to an unhealthy situation. It's just simply the caffeine.
So straight black coffee with no sugar, no cream, anything like that.
Exactly.
You're getting your caffeine, but not everything else that goes along with it.
Right. The mocha drinkers, the cappuccino drinkers, the latte drinkers, the different flavors that you love that make it taste so incredible, that all adds a ton of empty calories. And it adds a lot of stuff in it they could have some chemicals in it and some food coloring in it that simply the body doesn't need.
All right. And we've talked about this for years and years and years that you've been on the show, but I can honestly tell you right now, I feel the way that we talk about a lot. Basically in a funk that I can't get out of in terms of this constant cycle of being tired, stressed, mentally fatigued, physically fatigued. Like, I just want to sleep. I don't want to go. I want to go jogging. I want to work out. I just physically can't. I feel like I can't get myself up to do that. Do you just get to a point where your body is so run down? And I've found myself, and the reason I ask about the caffeine is I've found myself very dependent on some caffeinated drinks, not soda, but some caffeinated, and it's like a vicious cycle.
It is.
Right now. And I cannot break that cycle.
And it's a different kind of energy release in your system than having the natural high of eating good food, working out, feeling good every day, getting good sleep. And you just have that natural energy that your body has with a controlled blood sugar level. This is a different kind of an energy release when you have caffeine and the stimulant inside of you. It still gets you up, but it gets you up in a different way. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, how much sleep are you averaging per week on a daily basis? Better than 6.5?
No. We're talking some nights 2 hours a night. Because I can't fall asleep.
Well, we're identifying some of the problems. And do you understand also that when an adult male or female falls below 6.5 hours of sleep per night, what can happen over a long period of time is their body tends to hold on to fat. It slows down the bodily processes.
I have put on 12 pounds.
Well, and there's a reason for that. There is a reason. Now, when you add in the other aspects, the other dynamics, which could be you're eating more carbohydrates, or your body is no longer stimulating its metabolism the way it should, you're not getting enough exercise, you're under extreme stress, all of these dynamics contribute to gaining body fat. They contribute to the body not working the way it normally will work to process food, suck out all the nutrients, take the waste material and get it out of the body very, very efficiently and effectively, and then start the process again. And so as a result, the body tends to get, this is not scientific, all clogged up. And the bodily processes begin to slow down to a point where they're not working very efficiently, certainly not the way your body was intended for them to work.
And the reason I ask that is because I hear this from a lot of people. They are in that same situation that I'm feeling right now. They just feel stuck.
Sure.
And I would always say, hey, get yourself unstuck and just go do it. Go for a walk. Go do this. Try this. But I can't even take my own advice right now because I just don't. It just feels like there's this huge weight on me, keeping me from, and I know it's stress related. I know there's a multitude of things that are playing into this.
Yeah,
but I can't break the cycle.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. We deal with this a lot with our clients and our client base. We have a lot of successful people. We have just a lot of folks that has nothing to do with their business. Their mom is sick, or their father's going through cancer, or their kids are not doing well, or they have stresses in other aspects of life. But for whatever reason, there's a lack of sleep, or not very much, or not what they're used to. Because of that, it's throwing off their cycles. They're not eating the right foods, or they're not able to get a workout in on a consistent basis of any nature. And I'm going to say, let's go back to first things first. The number one thing that I want you to do is somehow, if you can, if it's possible, strive to get 4 or 5 of the 7 nights a week, and strive to get at least 6 hours sleep per night.
Now, you do know I have 3 little ones.
I understand.
That's very few and far between.
I understand that. I understand that. And
now, can you write a prescription to my wife?
I'm going to write something to the lovely and talented Miss Angie. And you two have to share in the sleep load. So she gets some sleep, and you get some sleep, and then she's up, and then you're up. But with the way you're feeling, you're headed for some things that are going to be not so good for you, and you're going to gain more body fat. It's going to be difficult. You could go to the gym all you want. You could get out and start running the streets again, but it's not going to be as effective unless you start letting the body repair itself, because what's happening is you're not repairing as efficiently, and so you're holding back.